I still remember the exact moment my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. It was a Saturday night, and I was scrolling through Instagram after 12 hours of freelance work. Then I saw it, a photo of my entire family at Portland International Airport. My dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, even my grandmother. They were all smiling, holding matching carry-on bags, checking in for a flight to Hawaii. Everyone was there, everyone except me. For an entire year, I had been sending my parents $800 every single week. Not once did anyone mention this trip. Not once did anyone ask if I wanted to come. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if stories about family sacrifice and standing up for yourself resonate with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stay with me until the end, because what happened 24 hours after I confronted my dad changed everything I thought I knew about my own family. My name is Elsa, and I am 28 years old. I work as a software engineer at a technology company in Seattle, Washington. I have been with this company since I graduated from college 6 years ago, slowly climbing my way up from a junior developer to a senior position. The journey was not easy. I spent countless nights studying, learning new programming languages, and taking on projects that nobody else wanted. But I did it because I believed in hard work, and I believed that if you put in the effort, good things would eventually come your way. I live alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood. It is nothing fancy. The walls are thin, the heating system makes strange noises in the winter, and the kitchen is barely big enough to fit one person. But it is mine, and for the longest time, I thought that was enough. I have always been the responsible one in my family, the one who never asked for much, the one who always put others before himself. Looking back now, I wonder if that was my biggest mistake. My parents live in Portland, Oregon, about a 3-hour drive from Seattle. My dad, Gerald, worked at a manufacturing company for over 20 years. He was a floor supervisor, and even though the pay was not great, it was stable. My mom, Sandra, works part-time at a flower shop downtown. She has always loved flowers, and even though the job does not pay much, it makes her happy. Or at least that is what she always told us. I have 2 younger siblings. My brother Derek is 23 years old. He graduated from college about a year and a half ago with a degree in communications, but he has been struggling to find a full-time job ever since. He picks up odd jobs here and there, but nothing permanent. My sister Megan is 20 years old, and currently in her 2nd year of college studying psychology. She has always been the baby of the family, and my parents have always treated her that way. 14 months ago, everything changed. My dad got laid off from his job. The company was downsizing, and after 2 decades of loyal service, they handed him a severance package and showed him the door. Just like that. 20 years of his life gone in a single afternoon. I remember the phone call from my mom that night. Her voice was shaking. She told me that they did not know how they were going to pay the mortgage. They did not know how they were going to keep the house. I did not even hesitate. That same night, I sat down and looked at my finances. I calculated how much I could spare without completely destroying my own life. The number I came up with was $800 a week. It was a lot. It was more than a lot. But I figured if I made some sacrifices, I could make it work. So I set up an automatic transfer every Friday. $800 straight from my account to my parents. The sacrifices started immediately. The first thing I did was sell my Jeep. I loved that car. It was a dark green Wrangler that I had saved up for years to buy. But I sold it to a guy in Tacoma for $12,000, and I started taking the bus and the metro to work. The commute went from 20 minutes to over an hour each way, but I told myself it was worth it. Next, I put my plans to buy a house on hold. I had been saving for a down payment for 3 years, dreaming of the day I could finally have a place of my own with a backyard and maybe even a dog. But that dream went into a drawer, and I stayed in my cramped apartment with the thin walls and the noisy heating system. I stopped going out with friends. Every time someone invited me to dinner or drinks or a weekend trip, I politely declined. I could not afford to spend $50 on a meal when that $50 could go to my family. I started cooking all my meals at home. Pasta, rice, beans, whatever was cheap and filling. I cannot remember the last time I ate at a restaurant during that year. On top of my regular job, I started taking freelance projects on weekends. I would wake up at 6 in the morning on Saturdays and work until midnight, writing code for small businesses and startups that needed help. It was exhausting. There were days when I could barely keep my eyes open. But every Friday when I saw that $800 leave my account, I told myself it was all worth it. My family needed me. In the beginning, my parents were grateful. My mom would call me every Friday evening right after the money hit their account. She would thank me profusely, tell me how much they appreciated everything I was doing. My dad would sometimes get on the phone too, his voice gruff but sincere. Those calls made me feel like what I was doing mattered, like I was making a difference. But somewhere along the way, things changed. The weekly calls became bi-weekly, then monthly, then almost non-existent. I found myself being the one who always had to reach out first. When I did call, my parents always seemed busy. "We are about to eat dinner. Your father is watching the game. Can we talk later?" Later never came. Derek and Megan were even worse. I hardly ever heard from them. The only time they would text me was when they needed something. Derek would ask for $100 here and there for gas or groceries. Megan would need money for textbooks or sorority fees. I always said yes. I never questioned it. They were my siblings and I wanted to help. I made excuses for all of them in my head. They are stressed. They are going through a hard time. They do not mean to be distant. They will come around once things get better. I convinced myself that their lack of communication had nothing to do with me. That it was just the circumstances. That once my dad found a new job and they got back on their feet, everything would go back to normal. 3 months before the Hawaii incident, my dad finally got a new job. He found a position at another manufacturing company, not as a supervisor this time, but the pay was decent. My mom called to tell me the news and I was genuinely happy for them. I thought about stopping the weekly transfers, but then I figured they probably needed time to stabilize their finances, to pay off the debts they had accumulated, so I kept sending the money. $800 every Friday like clockwork. What I did not know was that their financial situation had improved dramatically. What I did not know was that they had started spending money on things they did not need. What I did not know was that they were planning a 2-week family vacation to Maui without me. And I would not find out until I saw that photo on Instagram. The image is still burned into my memory. My entire family standing in front of the departure gates at Portland International Airport. My dad was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, something I had never seen him wear in my entire life. My mom had a sun hat and oversized sunglasses. Derek was grinning from ear to ear, holding up a shaka sign with his hand. Megan was taking a selfie, her other arm wrapped around our grandmother Martha, who was smiling warmly at the camera. Behind them, a sign pointed toward gates for flights to Honolulu. Megan had posted it to her Instagram story with a caption that read, "Family vacation, finally." 2 weeks in Maui. There were heart emojis and palm tree emojis and airplane emojis. Everyone looked so happy, so carefree, so complete. Without me. I stared at my phone screen for what felt like hours. My first thought was that I must have missed something. Maybe they had invited me and I had forgotten. Maybe there was a text message I had overlooked or an email that went to my spam folder. I checked everything. I went through every single conversation I had with my parents, with Derek, with Megan. There was nothing. Not a single mention of Hawaii. Not a single invitation. Not even a casual question about whether I had any time off coming up. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. They had planned this trip without me. They had bought tickets, booked hotels, arranged everything, and at no point did anyone think to include me. At no point did anyone even mention it to me. I was not part of their family vacation because they did not want me there. I sat on my couch in my dark apartment, still in my work clothes from my freelance shift that day. My dinner, a bowl of instant noodles, sat untouched on the coffee table. I could not eat. I could barely breathe. All I could do was stare at that photo and wonder where I had gone wrong. After about an hour of paralysis, I decided to call my mom. I needed answers. I needed to understand why they had done this. The phone rang 5 times before she picked up. I could hear the noise of the airport in the background. Announcements over the loudspeaker. People talking. Luggage wheels rolling on the floor. "Oh, hi, sweetie," my mom said, her voice casual, almost dismissive. "We are kind of busy right now." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mom, I saw Megan's Instagram story. You are all going to Hawaii." There was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. I could practically hear her trying to figure out what to say. "Oh, that," she finally replied. "Well, it was kind of a last-minute thing." "Last minute," I repeated. "It takes months to plan a 2-week trip to Maui." You had to book flights, hotels, rental cars. How is that last minute? Another pause. Your father thought, well, you should talk to him about it. Before I could respond, I heard muffled voices on the other end. Then my dad's voice came through the speaker. Elsa, what is going on, Dad? Why was I not invited to this trip? I expected him to apologize. I expected him to say it was an oversight, a mistake, something that could be explained away. Instead, he was silent for a moment, and then he said something that I will never forget for as long as I live. We did not want you there, Elsa. The words hit me like a freight train. What do you mean you did not want me there? He sighed as if I was being unreasonable. As if I was the one causing problems. Look, this trip is for the family to relax, to unwind, to have fun without any stress. And you always make everything about money. We did not want that energy on this vacation. I could not believe what I was hearing. I make everything about money. Dad, I have been sending you $800 every single week for the past year. I have never once brought it up. I have never once complained or asked for anything in return. And we appreciate that he said, his tone cold and matter of fact. But that does not mean we owe you a vacation. You chose to help us. Nobody forced you. I chose to help because you were about to lose your house. My voice was rising now despite my efforts to stay calm. I sold my car for you. I gave up my savings for you. I have been living off rice and beans so I could send you money every week. That was your decision, my dad said. And frankly, we needed a break from all of it. From you constantly reminding us that we needed help. I never reminded you of anything. I never said a word about the money. You did not have to say it, he replied. Your presence alone was a reminder. Every time we saw you, we thought about how we needed our son to bail us out. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? I was speechless. I had sacrificed everything for them, and they were telling me that my existence was a burden. That my help was actually hurting them. That they needed a vacation from me. Look, my dad continued. We are about to board. We can talk about this when we get back. Try to enjoy your weekend. And then he hung up. I sat there in the darkness, the phone still pressed to my ear, even though the call had ended. I do not know how long I stayed like that. Minutes, maybe hours. The world felt unreal, like I was watching everything from outside my own body. Eventually, I got up and walked to my desk. I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank statements. I scrolled through the transfers one by one. $800, $800, $800, week after week after week. The total came to $41,600. I had given my family $41,600 in 12 months, and in return, they had told me they did not want me around. I looked around my apartment. At the second-hand furniture I had bought because I could not afford anything new. At the empty space in the parking lot where my Jeep used to be. At the stack of bills on my counter that I had been carefully budgeting for months. I had given up so much. And for what? To be told that I was an embarrassment, that my help was unwelcome, that my family needed a break from me. I did not cry that night. I did not scream, or throw things, or break down. I just sat there staring at the wall and let the truth sink in. My family did not value me. They did not appreciate me. They did not want me, and maybe they never had. But somewhere in the middle of that long, dark night, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but underneath it something else was growing, something that felt almost like clarity. I had spent my entire life trying to be the good son, the responsible one, the one who always put family first. And where had it gotten me? Excluded, dismissed, unwanted. For the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if I stopped? I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past year in my head. Every sacrifice, every declined invitation from friends, every weekend spent hunched over my laptop doing freelance work, every meal of rice and beans, every mile on the bus when I used to drive my Jeep. By the time the sun came up, I had made my decision. It was not about revenge. It was not about punishing my family or making them suffer the way they had made me suffer. It was about something simpler than that. It was about survival. It was about finally choosing myself. I got out of bed, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat down at my laptop. The first thing I did was log into my bank account. I navigated to the automatic transfers section, found the recurring payment of $800 to my parents, and clicked cancel. A confirmation message popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer? I clicked yes without hesitation. Then I opened my email and started typing. I addressed it to my mom, my dad, Derek, and Megan. I wanted everyone to see it. I wanted everyone to understand. I did not write an angry letter. I did not accuse anyone of anything. I simply stated the facts clearly and calmly, because the facts spoke for themselves. I wrote about the past 12 months. I wrote about the $41,600 I had sent them. I wrote about selling my Jeep, about canceling my plans to buy a house, about working freelance every weekend, about eating cheap meals and turning down every social invitation. I wrote about how I had done all of this because I loved them, because I believed that family was supposed to take care of each other. Then I wrote about the phone call with my dad, about being told they did not want me on the vacation, about being told that my presence was a reminder of their failures, that my help had somehow become a burden. I wrote that those words had forced me to see our relationship in a new light. I told them that starting immediately I would no longer be providing financial support. I explained that this was not a punishment but a necessity, that I had neglected my own life, my own future, my own well-being for too long, that I needed to start taking care of myself. I ended the email with these words: I will always love you all. You are my family and nothing can change that. But I have realized that I cannot keep pouring from an empty cup. I need to start loving myself too. I hope you have a wonderful trip in Hawaii. I truly mean that. When you get back, maybe we can talk about where we go from here. I read it over 3 times, making sure every word was exactly what I wanted to say. Then I hit send. After that, I did something I had not done in over a year. I turned off my phone. I did not want to see their responses, not yet. I needed space. I needed time to breathe. I left my apartment and went for a walk. It was a beautiful Sunday morning. The air was crisp and the streets were quiet. I walked for almost 2 hours, no destination in mind, just putting one foot in front of the other. At some point, I passed a coffee shop I used to visit before I started sending money to my parents. I used to treat myself to a latte every Sunday morning. It was my little ritual, my small act of self-care. I had given it up 14 months ago because I could not justify spending $5 on coffee when that money could go to my family. I walked in and ordered a large vanilla latte. When the barista handed it to me, I took a sip and almost laughed out loud. It tasted incredible, not because it was the best coffee I had ever had, but because it represented something bigger. It represented the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where I was allowed to spend money on myself without feeling guilty. A chapter where my needs mattered too. That night I slept better than I had in months. The weight that had been pressing down on my chest for so long felt lighter somehow. The situation was far from resolved, but for the first time in a long time I felt like I had some control over my own life. The next morning I finally turned my phone back on. The screen exploded with notifications. 47 text messages, 23 missed calls, multiple voicemails. I took a deep breath and started scrolling through them. The first message was from my mom, sent about an hour after I sent the email. Elsa, please call me. We need to talk. This is not fair. The second was from Derek. Bro, what the hell? Mom is literally crying right now. Why would you do this? The third was from Megan. I cannot believe you are doing this to us. We are on vacation and you dropped this bomb. So selfish. The fourth was from my dad. This is extremely immature, Elsa. You are acting like a child. Call me immediately. I kept scrolling. Message after message, all variations of the same theme. I was being unfair. I was being selfish. I was ruining their vacation. How could I do this to them? Not a single message contained an apology. Not one person acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, they had done something wrong. It was all about them, about their feelings, about how my actions were affecting their trip. Then I got to a voicemail from my grandmother, Martha. Her voice was different from the others. It was soft, trembling slightly, but not with anger, with something else. I listened to her words carefully. Elsa, honey, it is Grandma. I just read your email and I am so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea. Your parents told me the money was coming from your father's severance package. They never mentioned you were the one supporting them. What they did to you is wrong. Leaving you out of this trip, saying those terrible things. It is not right. Please call me when you can. I love you. I played that voicemail 3 times. In a sea of blame and accusations, my grandmother was the only one who saw the truth, the only one who cared about my side of the story. I called her back immediately. She answered on the first ring. Elsa, she said, and I could hear the emotion in her voice. I am so glad you called. Grandma, how did you find out? Your email, she explained. I read it this morning. I could not believe what I was reading. All this time I thought your father was using his severance money to cover expenses. I had no idea you were sending them $800 every week. Elsa, that is an enormous amount of money. I know, I said quietly. I wanted to help. And you did help, she replied. You helped more than anyone should ever have to. But what they did to you, excluding you from this trip, saying they did not want you here, that is unforgivable. I am going to talk to them. Today. True to her word, my grandmother confronted my parents that afternoon. I was not there, but she told me about it later. She found my dad by the hotel pool, margarita in hand, and asked him point blank why they had not invited me. He tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting, that I always made things dramatic. My grandmother did not accept that. He gave you $40,000, she said. He sold his car. He works 2 jobs. And you told him you did not want him here. What kind of parents are you? My mom started crying. She admitted that they had been wrong, that they had gotten so used to the money coming in that they stopped thinking about where it was coming from. She said she felt guilty, but the guilt made it easier to avoid me rather than face what they had done. Derek and Megan were there too, listening to the whole conversation. My grandmother told me they both looked shocked. They had known I was helping out financially, but they had no idea about the scale of it. They had no idea about the sacrifices I had made. Later that evening, my phone rang. It was my dad. His voice was different this time. The coldness was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like shame. Elsa, he said slowly, I owe you an apology. I waited, not saying anything. What I said on the phone. It was wrong. I was wrong. I did not realize how much you had given up for us. Your mother and we got so wrapped up in our own problems that we stopped seeing what you were doing. And then when things got better, we wanted to forget that we ever needed help in the first place. It was easier to push you away than to admit how much we depended on you. He paused, and I could hear him take a shaky breath. I am not asking you to forgive me right away. I know I do not deserve that, but I want you to know that I am sorry. Truly sorry. I listened to his words, and for a moment I felt the old instinct kick in. The instinct to say it was okay to smooth things over to make everyone feel better. But I pushed that instinct down. It was not okay. And pretending it was would not help anyone. I hear you, Dad, I finally said, and I appreciate you saying that. But I need time. A lot of time. What happened? It is not something I can just forget. I understand, he said quietly. I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip, I added. I mean that. But when you get back, things are going to be different between us. I do not know what that looks like yet, but it cannot go back to the way it was. Okay, he said. Okay, son. We said goodbye and hung up. I put my phone down and looked out the window at the Seattle skyline. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I had almost forgotten existed. I felt free. The weeks after that phone call were some of the hardest of my life. Even though I had stood up for myself, even though I had finally set boundaries, the pain did not disappear overnight. There were mornings when I woke up and the first thing I felt was this crushing weight of sadness. I would lie in bed and replay my father's words over and over again. We did not want you there. Those 6 words haunted me. I realized pretty quickly that I could not heal from this alone. I found a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patterson, who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. In our sessions, she helped me understand that what I had experienced was a form of emotional exploitation. My family had taken my help for granted, and when I no longer served their needs, they discarded me. It was not a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of their dysfunction. Dr. Patterson taught me something that changed my perspective entirely. She said that loving someone does not mean sacrificing yourself for them. It does not mean ignoring your own needs so you can meet theirs. Real love, healthy love, involves mutual respect and reciprocity. It involves seeing each other as equals, not as resources to be used. I started making changes in my life. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. I used the money I was no longer sending to my parents to rent a nicer apartment, a 2-bedroom place with big windows and a modern kitchen. It was not a house with a backyard, not yet, but it was a significant upgrade from where I had been living. I bought a car, a reliable Honda sedan. It was not the Jeep I had loved and lost, but every time I drove it I felt a sense of independence that I had forgotten I was capable of feeling. I started saying yes to my friends again. Dinners out, weekend trips, movie nights, all the social activities I had been declining for over a year. My friends welcomed me back with open arms. They told me they had been worried about me, that they had noticed I was always busy, always unavailable. I did not tell them the whole story right away, but eventually I did. They were supportive and understanding, and their friendship helped fill a void that my family had left behind. 3 months after the Hawaii incident, I started talking to my mom again. She had been reaching out consistently, not demanding anything, just letting me know she was thinking of me. Her texts were different now. Less about what she needed and more about how I was doing. I appreciated the effort even if I was not ready to fully trust it. My grandmother Martha became my closest ally in the family. She called me every Sunday just to chat. She never pressured me to reconcile with my parents or forgive them before I was ready. She just listened, and that meant more to me than she could ever know. Derek sent me a long letter about a month after they got back from Hawaii. He apologized for taking me for granted, for never really considering what I was going through. He admitted that he had been so focused on his own struggles that he had not stopped to think about mine. It was a sincere apology, and I appreciated it. We started texting again, slowly rebuilding our relationship. Megan took longer. She was defensive at first, making excuses, trying to justify why she had not noticed what was happening. But eventually she came around too. She called me one evening and apologized in tears. She said she was ashamed of how she had treated me, of how entitled she had been. I told her that I forgave her, and I meant it. My relationship with my dad remained complicated. We talked occasionally, but there was always a distance between us. He had apologized, and I believed he was sincere, but the wound he had inflicted was deep. It would take more than words to heal it. Maybe time would help, maybe it would not. Either way, I had made peace with the uncertainty. I no longer sent money to my family every week, but I did not cut them off completely either. When there was a genuine need, a real emergency, I helped when I could. The difference was that now I helped because I wanted to, not because I felt obligated. And I never let myself give more than I could afford. Looking back on everything that happened, I have learned some lessons that I want to share with you. The first is that sacrifice without boundaries is not noble. It is self-destruction. When you give and give without ever receiving, you are not being generous. You are being exploited. And no amount of love justifies that. The second lesson is that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. It is a painful truth, but it is a truth nonetheless. You cannot control how others treat you. You can only control how you respond. And the third lesson, the most important one, is this. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from situations and people that drain you. That is not selfish. That is survival. That is self-respect. That is love directed inward where it belongs. If you are out there right now giving everything you have to people who do not appreciate you, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve to be seen, valued, and respected. And if the people in your life cannot give you that, then maybe it is time to start giving it to yourself. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you sacrificed everything for someone only to be taken for granted? How did you handle it? Leave a comment below and share your story. Your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing. If this story touched you, please give it a like to help more people find it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes a single story can change the way we see our own lives. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate every single one of you. Take care of yourselves, okay? Remember that you matter. Remember that your needs are important. And remember that choosing yourself is not a betrayal. It is the first step toward becoming whole.